Hello and welcome back. So today's free crochet is going to be a little different because I'm doing Christmassy themes. Yay! Even though I know it's not Thanksgiving yet. Yay! But you know what? I've been feeling a little down lately, so I wanted to cheer myself up with some Christmas colors. And hey, this way it'll be right in time for Christmas. So let's crack in and get started. As usual, I don't really know what I'm going to make. Just going to take some of my yarn and make it look pretty. And there's a lot to check in with you guys about since we last spoke. So a while ago, I was actually thinking about calling it quits and alterations because it's a complicated relationship for me. See, I never actually planned to become an alterationist. That sort of just happened when I was in college and I needed extra cash. And it's a lot of work. It's tedious work. Working with people typically is. And frankly, I'm not very good at communicating my actual thoughts in the heat of the moment. I never have been. My brain is very weird like that. It's never been good at multitasking. Even doing this sort of thing is kind of a challenge. That was my brother. He's making a mess downstairs. So hold that thought. See, part of the issue is that when people find out you can sew or that you have something in the skill set, they feel entitled to that skill, even though they're not the ones performing it. And it may sound cynical and horrible to say, but there's a lot of truth in that. It's actually one of the reasons why a lot of alterationists get out of the game. There's this unrealistic expectation nowadays. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that this sort of handiwork isn't really championed as much as it once was. It's not as commonplace as it used to be. Don't get me wrong, it's not a dying art by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what people think. As long as people need clothes, there'll always be a need to fix them, and as long as people are creative, there's always going to be a need to do this sort of thing. But it's frustrating trying to find a healthy balance between being an artist, being a business person, and learning the skill just because you can learn the skill for no real reason, just because you want to. So I really don't know. And frankly, I've just had a lot of bad luck with clients lately. I've had some last minute cancellations because people decided to replace their items instead of fixing them. I've had some clients who have effectively ghosted me, not even showing up for an appointment, not even responding to my messages when they don't show up, and I'm like, is this still on? Or do you want to reschedule? Like, not a word. I'm thinking about implementing a policy where if you leave an item with me and it goes unclaimed, after 3 phone calls or maybe 3 months, I'm going to consider it abandoned and I'll take it. Taking old clothes that you don't really care about, taking them apart and reworking them, that's a great way of experimenting and figuring out your stuff. I just don't know, guys. I just don't get any enjoyment or fulfillment out of altering clothes, at least not for profit. In fact, for me, if it's a job I'm being hired for, there's almost too much pressure. Because on one hand, I don't want to disappoint the person I'm doing this for, but on the other hand, it's a lot of work and my back aches at the end of the day. With all the physically demanding tasks that come with this kind of thing, you should be compensated for what you have to do. Especially because not everybody has the time or the patience or the focus to learn it themselves, even though they can. There needs to be a healthy compromise, at least in my case. I think I figured that out. Now bear with me on this one, it's going to sound a little weird, but here it is. I'm actually planning on not charging for alterations personally. Not to make a profit. There are some local charities around town that I've always admired, and they could always use some help. So I'm contemplating turning it into a non-for-profit service. Hear me out. Hear me out. There's a logic behind it. Because on the one hand, I'm still being compensated properly for the kind of work I can do. But on the other hand, it's not going to me directly. And since there's literally no risk involved, at least in my headspace, it makes it easier for me to relax and to actually get my job done without feeling overwhelmed. See, I've learned that if I put too much pressure on myself to do something just right, and I mean perfectly right, I end up failing at it miserably. It's also not good for my mental health, for reasons. I'm sure you can probably guess that by now. But I do know that I should benefit from the skill I have. Because again, it's a lot of work. Your back aches at the end of the day. Your legs are sore, believe it or not. And you use muscles in your hands and arms you did not know you had. The dexterity alone from something like this does not happen overnight. You got to work at it. And honestly, the way the world is right now, the way things are going right now, I like the idea of being able to help out any way I can. If I can use my skills to help out in any way I can, then I want to. And frankly, I've always valued education over profit. To me, it just seems like the natural thing to do. And doing it for nonprofit, well, there's a little bit of wiggle room to it. I need to find a way for this to give me some joy and not just turn into work. Otherwise, if it turns into something that humdrum and frankly that's stressful, I'm not going to want to do it anymore. I've also been toying with the idea of teaching. Because, well, the hard fact is we're going to be heading for something of a clothing apocalypse. There's just not enough people here in the States that have these skills anymore, and they're not being taught anywhere. At least not as extensively as they were once before. They're not being taught as frequently as they once were. And personally, I think it's because they are slightly devalued. Compared to other jobs and other careers and other vocations, this kind of work doesn't take high priority. Taking back off of what I said earlier, that kind of adds to the unrealistic expectations that you face when you're good at this kind of craft. And there's a lot of unrealistic expectations. And why shouldn't there be? The way shopping and retail has evolved over the past couple of decades. Shoppers and consumers today have basically been conditioned to have a completely different outlook on shopping in every single industry, even service. Now that's a topic we'll discuss on another day, because believe me, that video is coming. I have thoughts. I think I just made a snowflake without realizing it. That's okay. I don't know, maybe I'll make this into a little coaster. I don't quite know yet, but I'm loving this design. Hang on, it's too many. I will tell you one thing that did help. Today I actually got to have a meeting with a client. She's actually someone I met through work, my other work, my part-time job. And frankly, it went really well. Honestly, this was probably the best appointment I had in a while. And I'm not gonna lie, it did make me feel a lot better about my prospects. Oh, hang on, I dropped one. just have to find a different way. And not necessarily for the benefit of everyone, although I do like that idea. Being able to contribute to my community. But I need to find a different way, simply just for me, to take some of that pressure off myself. My life has been kind of messy lately, for reasons you're probably well acquainted with by now. And until I can figure things out again, I just have to take some of these stresses off. I have to take some of the pressures off of myself. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm not even the same person I was 6 months ago. Okay, well, we've got like a little Christmas star going on, or Christmas snowflake. This is another reason why I film these things, because if I end up coming up with a pretty pattern like this, I need to go back and figure out how I did it. Sometimes you just get so lost in your thought in free crochet that you don't actually pay attention to your pattern work. But it's looking good so far. I really like that. So, we're going to call it quits here for right now, just because I need to go back and figure this out. And maybe if I come back to, I don't know, what are we going to call this? Christmas Star. Let's call it Christmas Star. When we come back to Christmas Star, maybe I'll discuss some of my next projects coming up. Do you guys want to hear more about my personal projects, or do you want to see more tutorials like this? Do you even enjoy listening to me rant about the problems I'm facing in my side hustle? Let me know down below what you think. I think that's it for today, so I will see you guys next time. As always, happy crafting. Bye.